Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Okay, here's a confession for you. And I'm so different now that it's almost hard to remember what this was like, but I know this is true. I know this is real. When I was living in my parents' home and up through the time, I don't know, maybe early high school, I had a bedtime. And let me tell you something. I hated bedtime. I hated going to bed early. I am naturally somebody who back in the day, I didn't like getting up in the morning. I was really tired in the mornings, but I just got all kinds of energy later at night. There were all kinds of things I wanted to do. I wanted to read. I wanted to hang out. I wanted to play. And I just hated it, having to go to bed early. Ugh. And my parents insisted on it. We had a really hard and fast bedtime. We are in a series here on God on the Go about who's in charge. I'm Julie Lyles-Carr, and we're part of the Purposely Podcast Network. We're going to talk about something that sometimes we don't want to hear, but you know what? Who's in charge when you're living in your parents' home? Well, that's your parents. Your parents are in charge of certain things in your life. Now, I thought this was really encouraging because maybe you're having some challenges letting your parents be in charge. Maybe if you're a parent and you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to have a bad relationship with my kid. Here's some great news. How many kids today say they have a good relationship with their parents? And I thought this answer was encouraging. About 60% of kids say that their mom and dad, it's not just a good relationship, that their mom and dad are excellent. And so that means that, more often than not with kids and with parents, things are going well, but there are going to be times where things go a little sideways. And for me, for my parents and me, it was bedtime. And then as I got into high school, it was curfew. I did not like my parents being in charge of those two things. It really bothered me a whole lot. But here's the thing. God designed our families that, you know what? There are things that your parents are supposed to be in charge of. They are supposed to be in charge of taking care of you, sharing lessons and wisdom with you, and sometimes making decisions you don't agree with. There were times when I lived in my parents' home that there would be an event or a party or an extracurricular activity that I wanted to be part of, and my parents would say no, and I didn't always understand. Sometimes your mom or dad may make a decision that you don't like, and you may feel like, why do they get to be in charge of me? And yet we can see examples in scripture and in family that God did that for a reason. I think about Jesus when he was 12 years old. He went with his mom and dad to Jerusalem, and he went to the temple there and for different things that were happening as they were practicing their faith. And on the way home, his mom and dad thought that Jesus was with friends of theirs, or it was a big group of them who were all traveling together, and then they began to realize he wasn't there. And you can imagine that was scary for them. They went back to Jerusalem and they did find him, and they asked him, what have you been doing? And he said, I am about my Father's business. Jesus knew even at that young age that there was a call on him. There was something really important that he was going to need to do. And because he knew that at the age of 12, and in Jewish culture, at the age of 12, in that time period in history, a lot of times kids that age were considered almost like entering their adult responsibilities and years. And yet, even with all that, Jesus went home, that he respected his parents in all things, and that he did that until he entered his adult ministry. So that shows me that Jesus understood the value of respecting and honoring and accepting that there were things that his parents were going to be in charge of. Ephesians 6, verse 2 and 3 says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise." Now listen, I get it. There are times when I was still at home that I didn't like decisions my parents were making. I didn't like that they were in charge. And there have been times that now that I'm a mom, I'm sure I've made some decisions and told my kids no on some things or encouraged them to do something that they didn't want to do. And they may have felt like, why does she get to be in charge? But here's the thing. God has put it together so that someone who loves you so much and who has lived a little bit more life, who's had a little bit more experience, your mom and dad want to help you. They want to be there for you to have the best life that you can have. And there are going to be some things before you head out on your own, before you are getting a job and paying for your own life, that when you are living in their home, there are going to be some things that they are in charge of. George Fox University is our sponsor here on God on the Go. I want you to check out georgefox.edu for a great university experience for your student as they are beginning to head into those college years. And we are so thankful to have George Fox University as a sponsor for the show. And I'll see you next time here on God on the Go.